I'll just repeat all of that. So we are recording today's session. Welcome to the class for the curious around human design. I can see some very familiar faces here who have done some work with me in before, but I just wanted to introduce also Melissa Leithwood, who is one of my I Am ambassadors. She has gone through my I Am, hey Melinda, my I Am training, and is such a whiz with human design. Christine has just finished my I Am Academy and is now a qualified reader, which is really exciting. And you're here still to learn, right? Still to learn. We never stop learning. But the beautiful thing about those who are joining me live, you get to ask questions, and either myself or I would love to hear from anyone else too, because I think everyone's unique perspective on life is relevant, not just what we know out of books. And so what I'm going to do is actually bring the knowledge of human design out of those textbooks into our life so we can actually use them. So the three areas I'm really going to focus on today is our life, our health, and parenting. So relationships, connection. And because these are the three pillars that I cover in my I Am signature course as well. It's a really beautiful introduction. Why I created it was because of my frustration when I started learning human design, because when I saw my chart, right, I was like, that's awesome, but what does it mean? And some people just don't have the time and capacity to spend months and hundreds of thousands of dollars to go and study it, right? It's a big thing to really start to integrate, but I don't believe it has to be. I actually don't believe it has to be. And I feel like when I created the I Am course, I can show you how with only, a couple of hours of your time, you're going to really understand how it shows up in your life and how you can actually utilize it with, living the best version of it. So I am going to flick my screens around so we can get into the juicy content. If you are new here, please or even just anyone joining me live, can you please in the comments write between 1 and 10 where your human design wisdom is at the moment, because that will help me guide the content today as well. So 1 is like I'm brand new, or 0, it's like I don't even know what I am, to a 10, where are you in that range? And then if you do know what your type is, what your strategy is, hi Victoria, 1, yay, Diana is a 0. I love this. Melinda is a 2. Okay. Have you not done I Am yet, Melinda? Oh, okay. All righty. I have a mama joining from a hotel room in a few minutes. That's okay, Melissa. She's just putting her babe to sleep. She is an O. Okay, beautiful. We'll welcome her in when she gets here. Hey, Lisa. So I'm going to share my screen. And so the way I teach is always interactive, guys. Yes, I have a PowerPoint presentation, but I'm here for you. Okay, I'm here for you. So let's get this up. This just can everyone hear me okay? Yep. Okay, cool. So this is the class for the curious. Hopefully what I'm going to do is break down a few of the questions that you have. Actually, what was the first thing? Drop in the chat. What was the first thing that you thought about when you saw your chart? Has anyone not seen their chart? Actually, Melissa, could you pop up maybe your website that people can go and access the chart, or if that's not active yet, another one, so that if they don't have their body graph in front of them, they can do that. Can you pop that in the link? Thank you, darling. So if you don't have this, what I recommend while I'm talking, if you can just open up another screen on your computer or on your phone and go to this website, and then you'll be able to put in your time of birth, your date of birth, and your location of birth, and this will pop up. Simple as that. It doesn't matter if you were a booked cesarean, or if you're preemie, or if you're 10 days overdue. Everything is in divine timing. And so the moment that you were born was the moment that you were born, and everything is calculated off of that. Thank you. So for those who are watching the replay and can't see the chat, it's melissaleithwood.com/chart. So MELISSA Leithwood, LEITHWOOD.com/chart. And that will allow you to access this for free. And isn't she awesome that she's actually been able to integrate this into her website? And now she has to show me how to do the same thing. So thank you, Melissa. So we have a 6-2 splenic projector. We have people who are self-projected projector. Ooh, that's exciting. And we probably have people who know like, oh, I have this or I am that, but they don't actually know what it actually means to integrate that into their body. Like, how does that even show up for me? And that's what I really break down through the I am courses that I run. And I hope to at least shine a little bit of light on that for you today. Okay. So the first thing I want to say is just like, don't be afraid of who you are on the inside. Like when I'm sharing, and hopefully that quote isn't actually covered up by my photograph with Zoom, but the quote is, you don't need to be afraid of who you are on the inside. When I'm reading someone's chart or when I'm going through this information, the first thing I want you just to remember is that ideally, I'm not going to be telling you anything that you don't already know about yourself. It's more about coming home. It's more about remembering. It's more about, yes, that is me, but I always thought that was wrong because I always got told not to do that as a kid. Or that was the one thing that everyone complained about me when I was a child, and so I stopped doing it. It's like, no, honey, no, right? We have to come back and own those parts of us in its highest expression. And I really also want to teach you through the highest expression of the chart, because if you've gone out into the world and the tendrils of human design online, there's lots of different ways to perceive this modality, which is amazing. It means we can learn lots of different viewpoints, which is great. And I highly recommend it. But at the same time, there are sometimes people who talk like you've got it or you don't, right? And if you ever feel like human design is putting you in a box, stop. Because that's not what it's designed to do. It's designed to be a blueprint for you to come home to yourself and to remember what you're capable of. So if we can just remember that, that would be great. Okay, so I am Hayley Weezy. I am a 1-3 sacral generator. What does that mean? So you'll have two numbers in your chart. Now, where they actually come from, believe it or not, is these top two boxes. So the black one is the first number and the red one is the second number. And it's not the big number, it's a little number after the dot. And so you can see here, I'm a 42.1 and I'm a 61.3. And so that's where those profiles come from. Oof, you've already read your chart. You already know how to read a chart. Welcome. Congratulations, And so that's where that sits and that's where it comes from. This is our conscious sun, which is the moment we were born, and our unconscious sun, which is actually a few months before we were born. So this is a lot of energy, and it's how we see the world. And so I break all of this down and what those numbers mean in my courses. But for now, I just want to show you what that is and where it's coming from. And it's just basically the way that we express ourselves in the world. So if you're a 1-3 as well, we're probably going to get along really well because we live and breathe and experience the world the same way. And so if you are a 1-3, let me know, or if you have a 1 in your profile, or if you have a 3 in your profile, we'll have a lot of similarities in life. And the generator side means that this little box down here, this is our sacral, that's turned on, it's red. Right. And I'm going to I'm going to explain to you today what it means when something's turned on, so that there's color in the chart. What does all the color mean? Right. And what does all the white mean? That was really the first questions I had. It was like, but why is that good or is that bad? Right? Like, why is that red and why is that black? And what does all that mean? And why is that line going all the way through and that line only stops halfway? Like, why is that line both red and black? Like, there's all of these questions. So don't feel bad if you have them. And actually, if you have any of a specific question that you would love for me to answer, there's nothing silly here. If you're watching the replay and you have questions that I haven't answered in this video, you make sure you get in touch, right? And so I can answer them for you. So if you have any particular questions, or if you wanted to even just comment the first thing that you thought when you saw your chart, that would be great in the chat too. So for those, so I've got Jovian Archive here. This is another website that you can go to. We've also given you Melissa Leithwood's website, but what we're looking for, it's going to tell you on there some of the key terminology that I'm going to talk about today. So you're not going to have to learn how to read this. It's already going to tell you what to look for to make it really, really easy. So we're going to look for the type, and you might want to write this notes. I need to know, what is my type? What is my strategy? What is my profile? Right? These are going to probably be the biggest thing: type, strategy, profile, and probably authority. If this says inner authority, but authority as well. Type, strategy, authority, profile. They're the things that we want to look for. And if you know them, pop them in the chat. So then I know that what you're looking at, and you know where you're looking. And if you're stuck, you can say, I don't know what I'm looking for, and we can help you. Okay. Lisa's saying, I looked at the chart and thought, it's so pretty, but what are all those symbols? Yeah, so I'm going to explain that. Certainly going to explain that. So when I first saw my human design chart, it's like, what is human design? How does it work? What do all the colors mean? What are all those symbols? Is this good? Is this bad? Why does mine look different to someone else's, right? Well, Haley's got lots of color. Mine is also white. Like, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Like, everything is good. Like, there's always highest expressions and low expressions of everything, but I'm always going to show you the gifts that you have within your chart to work with what you have, right? Even like, where do I even start learning this? And so again, we start with your type, we start with your strategy, we start with your authority, and we start with your profile. They're really the key things that like will start to like everything. Life makes sense. And how can I learn more? They were some really big things. So I love to learn. That is such a big part of that 1-3 profile. And my little green triangle here, my defined ajna, we just love to learn, right? And so give me all the books, give me all the YouTubes, give me all the things. Like, I'm such a good self-learner, and even this broke me. Even this like confused the crap out of me. It's like, it shouldn't be this hard. And guess what? It doesn't need to be this hard. And so that's why I invented this way of teaching it. So what I want you to think about, all the things like have you ever felt like someone's given you advice, but it just didn't resonate with you? You know what I mean? Like, have you ever sat and thought like, is this it? Like, isn't there something more? Like, you know, like that, like for me, that feeling of going to school, getting good grades, going to uni, topping the class, getting a good job, doing the thing. It's like, but hang on a second. Isn't there more? Right? Even just like when you meet someone, it's like, why was there just that instant connection with this person who I barely even met? How did that even happen? Have you ever thought like, oh my God, my children, I could just like, why don't I get this? Why was everything working with my first child, but my second child, I just don't seem to understand, right? Or that could be anyone in general. And if we ever wish that you came with a instruction manual, or your children came with an instruction manual, right? We were really going to find some really beautiful guiding blueprint, permission to trust and honor each and every one of us through this system. So, Melissa, I was going to get you to do some talking. I didn't even tell you that. But like for me, I will just talk about like with human design, we'll cover that. We'll cover some chart anatomy. We'll cover the type, strategy, and authority. We've got some unique gifts in here and how you can continue your human design journey. So human design has been around since 1987. There is a man called Ra Uru Hu. That's not his official name, but that is the name that he gave himself, who got gifted the wisdom of the human design system in quite an interesting multi-day experience. And to the point where he thought it was so left field and he thought everyone was going to think he's crazy, that he actually destroyed everything that he downloaded or what came through him over that time. But the thing is that he'd actually backed it up and someone sent it back to him. And then he realized that he was actually meant to bring this to the world. And so what it is actually all of these historic components that come together into this blueprint. So it covers like things that have been around for thousands of years. You've got astrology, gene keys, Kabbalah, chakras, I Ching, right? These are ancient modalities that have been used in different walks of life, different cultures, and also like quantum physics. There's a lot of quantum physics built into the human design system as well. So yeah, it's super, super fascinating, particularly if you've come already with a background of some of these, you can really see where it's being expressed and the alignment between the two. The body graph, that's what we're looking at here. This is the picture, right, that we have, is a graphical representation of where like stars, planets, and neutrinos were in 2 moments in time. So about 3 months before you were born, that's the red side, right? And the moment you were born, that took your first breath, that's the black side. And I'll explain the difference between the two in a minute. But it really is just a blueprint. Like it's full permission to remember your natural traits, your natural expressions, and how you're here to experience the world and how the world is here to experience you. Like it's just pure awareness. And I love it, even just from a personal development perspective. Oh, What's happened there? So now we're going to go into some chart anatomy. Are you keeping up with me? How is this going? I can see people writing lots of notes, which is cool. So this is where we talk about black and the red. And so what I've done is I've put some other people's charts up here so we can just see, oh, they all look a little bit different. And that's the point. We all are unique. Even if someone was like, even twins, right? Born at like almost minutes apart. Because we are all unique souls, and depending on what you believe, I still believe that each soul comes to this earth with history, right? With past life history, with past life karma and dharma that come into their chart. And so they're already going to interact with that energy differently because they are unique souls. So even people with the exact same chart are still going to be able to express their own chart individually. Okay, so just remember that. So the red is the unconscious side. So that's that 3 months before we were born. It's kind of like when our soul came into our body and things that just are, right? And then the black side is the conscious mind. And so this is all the stuff. So when you really want to dive into the nuances of your chart, start with the black side, because these are the things that are going to be front of mind for you. The things that you're already experiencing in life. It's the things you're already working through in life. But when I teach human design, I teach the whole chart. Like I teach the black, the red, and the white. Everything's relevant. We don't need to worry if it's one or the other at this point in time. Okay, it's just that's the difference. So you know why there are different colors. And if there's a line here, see how there's a line here with black and red. Awesome. It's just present in both sides. It was there 3 months before you were born, and the energy was still there when you were born. Okay, so it's even more significant. So the other thing is all the little lines on the chart. These are called gates and channels. And I'm just telling you the terminology. So when you hear it, this is what they're referencing to. So the gate is when there is a little number lit up, but it doesn't go all the way through. It's just what we call a hanging gate, right? It's just there all by itself. It doesn't have a friend. And what a channel is when one gate meets another gate. That's what creates a channel. It's just two gates connecting. So what I want you to do is actually have a look at your chart if you have in front of you, and count up how many gates you have. So here I can see like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So this chart has 18 gates, right? And when I'm looking at channels, there's one channel there, there's one channel there, and there's one channel there. So there's 3 channels. So if you can actually have a look at that and write in the comments, that would be awesome. So Diana's asked, what do you do if you don't have your time of birth? This is a really good question. And Melissa has actually put some great advice in the chat for her there. But for those who need it, I've actually got, when people join my I Am course, I've actually got a video on there on ways that you can find the more accurate time of birth. Most of the time, your chart doesn't change that much in the day. So you can, when you're putting in your details, you can try 1 a.m., 5 a.m., midday, 5 p.m., 11 p.m., and you can see how much your chart changes, right? And then once you are going through this, and even maybe from this class today, you may say, well, like this really resonates with me or this doesn't. And that will determine if you're born in the morning or the afternoon, depending on what changes in your chart. So we do have videos on how to help with that. Melissa's talked about a chart rectification app, which we can link you into, which is using astrology to find the time. It's pretty accurate, almost within an hour to 15 minutes of your time of birth. Okay, Lisa has 20 gates and 3 channels. Melissa is saying, yes, Haley has a somatic method in her course as well. Yes. Melissa has 22 gates and 4 channels. Victoria has 13 gates and 1 channel. There's no right or wrong. So what I would say from Victoria, did you say that you were the self-projected projector? Like they're very open people, which means there's not a lot of energy, which means there's a lot of sensitivity, which is really powerful. I'm so grateful that you're in this course, because life is going to make a lot more sense after it, because maybe you've gone through a lot of your life thinking, why am I so different to everybody else? All right. Okay, and this is the other thing that's really, really important to understand when we're looking at a human design body graph. Now, why is this important? It's because this is everything. Where anything is colored, we call it defined. So it doesn't matter if it's a gate or a channel or a center, right? Where the color is coming out into the world, this is where you send energy out into the world, right? You're a transmitter of energy. Okay. And so you influence others in this space. Now, I believe my theory, but if you agree with me or not, is that these are the gifts that we've been given, either by God or universe or source, whatever it is. It's like, this is what we signed on with the gifts to bring to this world. And the white areas of our chart is what we've signed on to receive and receive and experience and learn in this world. And so when we're looking at the definition, we can be more resilient to things like conditioning or influence in this space, right? We're pretty more, we're more consistent in this space, but we're not resilient to getting knocked off the pedestal either. And in fact, if there is a few things that are going astray in these defined centers, it's probably more significant for you. And we probably have to do a little bit more subconscious work to pull it out, because it's ingrained deep within who you are, right? Now, when it is, oh, what is going on here? Sorry about that. Is that going black and white for you? Or is it just me? Zoom is telling me that my audio is not working again. What are you doing? Zoom. Come on, Zoom. Hang in there, babe. Has my screen gone black, or can you still see it? It's gone black. If honestly, the amount of IT issues, the amount of IT issues I've had this week, I would say it's Mercury retrograde, and it's not. Otherwise, I'm going to have to frigging go rogue. Okay, let's keep talking about the white centers while I've got a white screen. So where the centers are white on your chart, this is where we receive energy. Now, there's two different types. You'll either have a white center with still some lines coming out of it, or you potentially could have a white center with no lines at all in it. It's fully white. And I think these two behave slightly differently. So what happens, think of this like a sponge. You absorb the energy from others that are putting out. Oh, are you still with me? You are. Okay, I've just lost Chrome. So let's stop sharing my screen. Actually, Melissa, are you there? Would you like to talk about defined versus undefined while I get this presentation right back up and running? I'm just throwing her on the spot.
Sorry, what was that?
Can you talk through defined versus undefined? So undefined. So what are the strengths with the undefined? What do they need to know about their white centers?
Yeah, so the white centers are really where we are nurtured in this world. So it's where we are a sponge. It's where we receive a lot of the energies that are floating around us, right? And it's also where we can receive a lot of conditioning in this world. So things that are not necessarily meant for our truest self. And so oftentimes, just as an example for myself, in my open, undefined white center known as the will center, I have gone through periods of my life where I've really had to feel like I have to prove myself. So much so that I have all the degrees. I was 3 months away from finishing a PhD in business when I left, but you know, my soul awakened at that point and I figured things out. But that's really kind of the heart of the undefined center, is that it's where we get nourished.
Yeah, it's where we can. Yeah, no, I love that. It's because I'm back. We do get nourished. It's almost like where we release. We can fully release in these spaces, can't we? Because we're actually not designed to hold the energy. All right, hang on. Now I've lost. What can I do here? This one, present. All right, I'm back.
Okay.
Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah, and so basically in our defined centers, it's where we are putting out that energy. And so it's kind of our nature, right? So when we look at nature versus nurture is where our white centers are, and nature is really who we are. It's our personality, it's the energy that we put out into the world. So it's quite consistent.
Yes. Yeah, it's consistent energy versus inconsistent access to that energy. And so I think we've covered all those points. Like that, this is a point of ease and surrender. It's a point of sensitivity, and therein lies the gifts. And we'll explain when I'm actually going to go through all the centers and describe to you, if it is defined, if you've got color, this is the energy that you can tap into. And also if you have that center, which is white, this is the energy to tap into. So I'm actually going to break it down individually for you. So you're going to know a lot more about your chart. And then what I would say though, is if it is fully open, sometimes you can be, because it's so sensitive, it doesn't have any way to naturally want to express itself, like in through a gate. It can get a bit numb, right? And it can actually maybe even want to act like a defined center, because that's probably who you've been most influenced by. And so sometimes there's a little bit of conditioning in there as well, which is interesting. And so this is probably my best advice that I could give you when you're looking at the defined versus the undefined. When you're sending energy out into the world, you're responsible for that. So for instance, when we're looking at relationships and things, and if someone's getting triggered in that relationship, I'd want to look at who is sending the energy out that is actually impacting that mood. Because if they tone that down, if they adjust the way the energy they're sending out into the world, then the person receiving that energy is also going to change. Okay. But mainly for people down here who are very open, and Victoria, this will be a really big one for you to remember, is that to be a sieve and not a sponge. So when you're going to feel the energy from so many other people, that you come into contact with, but it's not yours to hold. So you may be you'd be very wise as a self-projected projector, and you know a lot of things, right? And you can sense and feel that within the other to share and mirror back to them and help guide them in their life, but you don't have to hold on to that. Okay. So what happens is if you've got a white center and you're holding on to everyone else's energy, like an empath in our solar plexus, and you're holding on to that, then it's going to get mucky and dirty and gross, right? And so we have to realize that those emotions that we're feeling as an empath, they're not ours. We can actually let them go. We can have empathy and we can care and we can have compassion, but then we can let it go. Okay. And so if you are finding that you're getting stuck in your openness, in your sensitivity, you be the sieve and not the sponge, and to that sensitivity of what you're feeling. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes. Took me so long to become a sieve. It is. I've been called a chameleon and have been an empath. Yeah, so that makes complete sense, because that's just your beautiful traits, and they're totally your gifts as well. And I'm glad that you've already realized that you need to be a sieve, but how wonderful is it to learn it like even earlier on the journey, right? And this is why I want to teach human design to as many people as I can. So now we're going to just have a look at the different centers and what they actually are. What are they called? Because even like this center here, I'm like, how do you even say that word? Like, it's ajna. That's how I pronounce it anyway. But I had to even go into Google, like YouTube videos, to find videos on it. It's like, how do they say this word? Like, I didn't even know how to pronounce things, right? But each of these centers, they're connected to chakras. And so we've got a head center, a ajna, throat, G center, will center, which has also got a name of a heart or an ego. There's got that one's got 3 names: solar plexus, the sacral in the middle, the splenic center, and the root center. And so these, everyone has these centers, and they'll either be colored or they'll be white. And so what I want you to tell me is, how many colored centers do you have, or defined centers, and how many white centers or undefined centers do you have? So for instance, when I look at my chart, I have 6 defined and 3 undefined. Victoria's saying, would have been great to know in my 20s. Yes, it would have been. Or imagine if your mother knew it and she actually helped you with this when you were a child. And that's why I always try and get into the parents, and I teach parenting, human design for parenting in the IM course, because imagine if we could even get this from when you were born, then it's a real game changer. Okay, so 2 defined, 4 color, 5 white, 3 defined, 6 undefined, 7 defined, undefined from Victoria, 5 defined, 4 undefined. Perfect. So you're reading your chart. This is amazing. So all of these centers have expressions. And this is really important, because then we know what energy we're interacting with. So the head is for all the inspiration and the ideas and the questions. When this is open, oh my goodness, like, all the thoughts coming through the head, like 1,000 times, like 1,000 minutes. And so when you go to bed, it's like You go to bed and it's like all the thoughts. This is the head center, right? Ajna is the knowing. It's the answers to those questions, to those ideas. And then it comes into the throat, wanting to be expressed. In fact, all energy wants to come through the throat and be expressed. And I go through all of this and why this is important. The G center is around identity and purpose and love, right? It's like the compass within us, or the map within us that guides us on our purpose and our journey. The will center is connected to our heart and our ego. And so this is really great for self-esteem, or can be really hard if it's white for self-worth and feeling like you're enough. The solar plexus is connected to our emotions. And this is what makes us that empath if it is white, or if we're colored, this is where we get that emotional intelligence from. And like you literally live and breathe emotions if this is colored for you, if this center is colored for you. Your sacral center is for energy and creation. This is our little battery pack for us generators if it's turned on. But for those that it's open, you get to experience and create in a whole different way to everyone else who has this center defined. And that's really important to know. The splenic center is around fear and intuition. This is a really primal center because when we think about what fear is intuition. When we think about the deer in the forest and it's just like, I've got to go, gone, right? That is intuition at its most primal. And that is also fear. And so it's really important to get a really good relationship and understand your splenic center, because this can sometimes be your biggest gifts if you trust your intuition, but also the things that are holding you back if you're letting the fear overcome it. Okay. And then the root center down the bottom is really around pressure, and it's highly connected to feeling like, like it's connected to our adrenals. So, if we don't have a good, healthy relationship with our root center, trust me, you've probably experienced burnout in your life. So that's why, again, I cover health and things in the I Am module, because I think it's important to understand how our energy and our emotions and the way that we experience the world physically impacts our health on a day-to-day basis. Victoria is saying, my Lord, I look into that and I have 2 manifesting generators. Oh, you're looking with your kids. So as a self-projected projector who's very open and you have 2 manifesting generators, I would say that you're very tired as a mum, and your kids would be like, oh my God, why are they so crazy? Right? Knowing what the will center is just explains so much for me. Yes. This is awesome. I'm so glad you're here, Victoria. So the big 3. Type is the first one: type, strategy, and authority. And so you'll be one of these 5. There's 5 different types. There's a manifestor, a projector, a generator, a manifesting generator, and a reflector. And I break all of these down in my courses, but this is the different amounts in the population. And so if you are a generator, be it manifesting or straight generator, you're 70% of the population. And so that is why when we teach like projectors or manifestors or reflectors, they're like, no wonder they felt different in the world. No wonder they're here to do different things in the world, because 7 out of 10 people around them don't behave in the same way that they do. And so often a projector or a manifestor will try and be a generator, and they're just getting burnt out and it's not working and they don't know why. And this is why. So knowing your type will help you understand how you interact with the world and how it interacts with you. So it'll also determine your strategy. So what is a strategy? Your strategy is probably the most important thing you need to know. Like, this is literally like when you follow your strategy, you become aligned and you get the right situations that you get to choose what you buy in on, right? And so if you're not following your strategy, stuff gets clunky, stuff doesn't work. And you will already know when you're following your strategy and when you're not, and you didn't even know it was happening, because, wow, that just flowed really well. Wow, that felt effortless. I bet you in those instances, you were already following your strategy organically. And when you forced something, or when you did something out of like shoulds kind of thing, you're not in alignment, it didn't really work for you, right? And so it is what you need to know to ensure your human design type is best received by the world, and it will allow you to reorganize, recognize if you are on the right path. So we already know that your type is either a generator. I'm a generator. What is your type? Pop it in the chat. Okay. So if we want those gifts that you hold as a projector or a generator or a reflector or a manifesting generator or a projector, like if you want those gifts to be received in its fullest form, we have to follow our strategy. And so a manifestor is here to start something. They're here to inform us and initiate things. And I go into a lot more detail, but I just want to remember that do we have any manifestors on the call? No, just manifesting generators. Oh, we do. Sorry, I can't see your name. Lisa. You're a manifesting generator. So that's a little bit different. Yeah. But it still has some, and this is the thing. This is why it's important to come and learn a little bit, because it is the nuances sometimes that can shift the needle for us where we didn't quite understand it before. But a straight manifestor, okay, Victoria's husband is a manifestor. Oh, this is really good to know. So manifestors are quick. They get an idea. They're not actually here to ask for permission. They're not here to do, they're just here to tell, like get the idea, knock the domino over, light the match, start the thing, initiate the thing, right? Projectors are here to guide the thing. Okay, so projectors aren't necessarily here to do the work and pick up the tools. They get very tired very, very easily. They need a lot of sleep and a lot of rest. But they need to guide the thing. And the best way for them to guide the thing is to do that through recognition and invitation. And so projectors, because they're so wise, what normally impacts their life the most is when they give unsolicited advice that it hasn't been invited in. And so they just want to say something because they see it and they think they're going to help. And it's probably correct. It's probably true. But it lands like a thud of bricks because it wasn't invited in. And so I can teach you how to follow your strategy through recognition and invitation so that that wisdom and that guidance will be received by the right people as a projector. Does that make sense? Now, as a generator, we're here to build stuff, right? But we can only build the right things when we're doing that in response to something. So as a generator or a manifesting generator, we see things in the world. We see things, we see a need, or we feel like we get an idea, and then all of a sudden someone asks us that exact same thing. Guess what? We're responding to that. We have to respond to something outside of us. So we live in the present moment as a generator and a manifesting generator, and we get to respond to our current environment. And when we do that, and when we follow the breadcrumbs, literally the step in front of us, it will lead us down along our path of alignment and purpose and all the gifts that are in store for us. If we're not responding, if we're just like, I get an idea and I want to go start the thing, that's what a manifestor should do, right? But if a generator does that and they don't wait just a little bit to see if their environment, if their community, if the universe actually wants them to take action on that idea, then it will fall flat. It won't really land because they're not here just to initiate. They're here to go, oh, that person needs this. I'm going to go create it for them. Slight nuances. Now, where the manifesting generator comes into it is with pace. So a mani-gen likes to do all the things, right? Multifaceted. And so when they get that idea and they're responding to that thing and they just want to take off and do it really, really quickly, the fastest way for you to be able to do that is to tell people what you're doing. Just do that. Just inform them what you're doing. And that's going to release that frustration that you may be getting from those others around you. If you all of a sudden, why do I keep getting all these questions when I'm just trying to create something that they asked for, right? It's just to inform them because you move so fast through life. And the reflector is here to regulate the thing. So reflectors are only 1% of the population, and they really have to work with the lunar cycle. And this is a whole nother conversation, but they're designed to sample their environment at multiple different times throughout the month, and then come to make their decision with what feels right for them. Okay. So when we're looking at an authority, so this is where we've got type, strategy, and now we're talking about authority. This is how we make a decision. It's pretty much that simple. So like we all have an inner guidance system on how we say yes or no to something. So for instance, if I'm a generator, I'm here to respond to something. I still get to say yes or no if I want to do that. Okay. Just because someone's asked me for help, because I've got the skill set and I've got the energy as a generator to build something and do something. Let me know, generators on the call. Have you ever felt like you've just kind of been used a little bit too much, or you've like said yes to things because you should, because you can, but there's something in you that like, I really don't want to do this, but I know I should, or I know I can, so I will. right? I'm getting big nods from Lisa. Yeah, this is where your authority is your final gatekeeper to go have a boundary and say no, because your energy as a generator is only supposed to be used for things that actually light you up. All right. So just because someone wants something from you doesn't mean that's what you're here to give. It means someone else is here to give that, right? So you saying no means someone else can say yes. And so that can be a gift for them. But we all have a different authority. Do I have a picture of them? No, I don't. Sorry. I go through all of these obviously in my course, but just understand that where it says authority, there's 7 different ones. So if it's your sacral, it's your gut instinct, right? It's a yes or it's a no. It's very instant response to a question that generators will get. Only generators will have that, or a manifesting generator will have that sacral authority. The splenic, that spleen system is intuition, right? And so that's like, it comes out of nowhere. It's not your gut instinct. It's like it drops in like a bomb. It leaves its advice and then it disappears. Okay. And so normally what follows splenic intuition is fear around, I can't do that. I don't know what to do there. But like, so there's this getting in touch if you're a splenic authority, get in touch with your body, get in touch with how it talks to you intuitively, right? Because it's not always going to be your gut, because your gut, the sacral, the gut instinct will keep reminding you, yes, do that. No, don't do that, right? This will be much more primal. Emotional authority is actually the most powerful authority. If you have your solar plexus, right, which is that arrow on, if the triangle, if you're looking at your chart, because this will, I will reverse it, it's on the right hand side, the furthest right hand side triangle. If that solar plexus is activated, you're an emotional authority. And so that means you've got an emotional wave or multiple emotional waves within your body that rule your life. Emotions are your life. Okay. 1, it makes you highly emotionally intelligent, but 2, you're going to be up here one day and then you're going to be down. It's like a roller coaster. And so if you're an emotional authority, just understand that you're not here to make quick decisions, honey. If someone puts you on, is anyone who's an emotional authority on this call? Who says somewhere where it says emotional manifesting generator or emotional projector? So I'm looking sideways because I'm trying to read the chats. You're not here to make a quick decision. Okay. The best thing that you can say to anyone is, I'll get back to you tomorrow. All right. And sleep on it. Because what that's going to do is going to take away that low point and that high point of your wave, and just it's going to help you respond in the space where you feel the most calm. And it's like, yeah, this actually feels really good. And so you make decisions from real calm situations, like after meditation and things too, where like a sacral authority like me, woo, let's do this. Like it's much more excited energy, right? Where emotional, it should be like, whoo. Because if you're making a woo decision, you're probably high on the emotional wave. And I would hate for you to be like, wake up the next day and go, oh no, why did I say yes to this? Which you may have done a few times in your life. Okay, ego, self-projected, mental, and lunar. These are all much more smaller minority authorities. They just depend on like, you need to like either talk through the situation, like so you can actually hear your own voice. How is this? And you may just need to talk to someone or just literally talk to yourself, but hearing your own voice will actually help you determine the right course of action. Right. So for Victoria, you're a self-projected projector. You just need to talk it out. Right. And so maybe you naturally do this already. And if so, awesome, keep it up, because that's literally how you filter through all the options. And then you go, oh, yeah, awesome. I'm going to go do that. Thanks for listening. And literally they haven't said a word. They've just gone, all the time. You're saying, awesome, this is great. And the ego authority is about like, what do I want? You can be totally selfish with that. Okay, we're going to explore the centers now. So this is where I was talking about what all the centers do. And I go into more depth again of this in my I Am course. But like, I just want to give this to you now for those who are curious about the chart and the gifts that you have. And this is something that I want to explore more. I absolutely adore the centers. Yes, we can dive into all the gates and all the things, but I think there's so much wisdom to be had here, and just honoring the so much of the energy that we send out into the world and what we receive. So we've talked about this head center being the pressure center. Now, if you are defined, if you're colored, you're the minority. You're about 30% of the population, but you are here to spread inspiration everywhere you go. Okay, so when you get an inspiration, share it. But what I will say is the wisdom and the ideas and the inspiration that you have is always going to be best received when it's invited or recognized. So don't get disheveled or don't get set back or discouraged if all your inspiration, people aren't understanding it or people aren't like listening to you. It just may mean we have to change the way that you deliver it. It doesn't mean that what you have here to give isn't valuable. It just means the people that you're speaking to, aren't the right people for you, right? And that's what we can explore further for you in your design. Does that make sense for people? But it's a really beautiful gift that you have. Now, when you're undefined, you're open, your inspiration is always going to come. Like you're open tap to everything, the universe, other people, all the stuff can just come straight through into your head. And so you may get a bit of indigestion when it comes to inspiration and you don't know like which one to do or what idea to take, to actually take action on, right? And so the question here, the mantra I would say is like, do I need to answer all of these questions or just those that inspire me? Like you don't actually have to take action on everything that comes into your head. Just like, oh, that's interesting, right? This is not a center that you're really here to be like consistently accessing all the time. You're not supposed to spend time in your head. Get out of your head and just do the things that really light you up. Drop back into that strategy and authority. Okay. As in, is my sacral a yes to this idea? Right? That's how we can then utilize our authority to decide what inspiration we want to take action on. Now, the awareness center is the ajna, down the one down from there. This is like knowing all the answers. So if you have someone who has this colored, I have this colored, right? We can get a little bit stubborn when we're defining the center because we know stuff. But the problem is, the gift in this is that we know stuff. But the shadow in this is that it's just an opinion. It's still just an opinion, right? And so it's really good to understand that we are really capable of being certain about something and people will be drawn to us for that certainty, for that knowledge and for that wisdom that we're holding within that space. But that doesn't mean that when we meet someone with a different idea that their idea just isn't as valid, okay? So we just have to remember that. My husband and babies. Robin's saying, yes. Beautiful. Couple of defined ajnas like me. I love it. I do. I love it. I have it, right? But if you're undefined, there'll always be more to know. And so I have to be really mindful that I could be putting like pressure onto someone to think or to answer, right? When it's actually not their job to do that. And so if you want to remember something, write it down. If this center is white for you, you may feel like, why can't I remember things? Or I know what it is and then I forget like really, really easily, right? Maybe you have trouble retaining information. It could be in the center too. And so there'll always be more to know, always. Do I really need to answer this? Probably not. Okay. And so just like write things down if you really want to remember them. 3 planners and a digital one for a reason. Victoria saying, yeah, totally. I love that it's resonating with you guys. This is so the tip of the iceberg, but like I'm so excited that this is already resonating so much with you. All right, throat center. This is the manifestation center. So all the energy in our body wants to express itself through the throat. Okay, so what that means is we have to, depending on our relationship with our voice and wanting and feeling heard and valuable with what we have to say and feeling seen when we speak, like all of these things, like a lot of childhood trauma sits in the throat. This is why I literally adore spearmint essential oil. If you don't work with essential oils, or if you do like get some spearmint, it's such a beautiful oil to clear this throat center to allow the expression to flow through naturally. Okay. Oils are life, Victoria is saying. Good, they are for me too. So the defined center, when we speak with great responsibility because that energy is being sent out into the world and it's landing and hitting on people. Okay. So it's such a huge gift. You have a consistent access to the way that you communicate. So it doesn't matter who I'm talking to as a defined throat, I will speak to them like pretty much the same. It's very different with an undefined throat. And I'll explain that in a second. But with my defined throat, I'm here to allow others to have a voice, right? So I actually sometimes have to stop talking to give undefined throats the ability to be heard and seen, right? And I can use my voice to invite other people to share their wisdom, right? Melissa, do you have a defined throat or an undefined throat? You have a defined throat too. Yeah, beautiful. And so with the undefined throat, it's less of the population. It's, 3 in 10 have an undefined throat. And so both of my children have undefined throats. So I have to be really mindful. There's a few things how this shows up. Chatterbox often, like overcompensation, right? And if you come into contact with an undefined throat, you will know, because sometimes they won't stop talking because they are tapping into your energy, and all of a sudden they can finally express themselves. And so just let them feel heard. Okay. But if you are undefined, just remember that you are seen and valued, especially when you're silent. You're going to feel a lot of pressure in that throat center potentially, that if you're not talking, you're invisible. Okay. And so this will either manifest as a child who was really quiet or who got told to shush all the time. Okay. There's often just imbalance there. And so just trust that your body will know when and how it's time to speak, and that you can really channel amazing wisdom through that open throat center. Like words can just come through you. Even music, singing can come through you. Some of the world's greatest singers have an open throat because of that. But it's around finding that balance of when you need to speak and when you don't, because the gift of an undefined throat is when you're silent, but then you do speak, people were like, what did you say? Right? But when someone talks so often, what happens? People just tune out, don't they? They just tune that out. And so play with that a little bit and ask yourself those questions if there's been any conditioning in that center. And when I go through the health module in the I Am course, we cover a whole week on all of these centers and how they relate to our health. This is a big one around thyroid health. But whether you're defined or undefined, and I explain that further as well. But if you do have any thyroid issues or metabolism issues, then often this lives in the throat center as well. What do we have? So we've got Melissa saying, my daughter is undefined and she sings all the time. She sings everything. She talks, sings. I love this. And this is the great thing that we can encourage with our children who have undefined throats or who have a lot of energy to express through the throat, is what's a really healthy way to do that. That isn't like, shh, inside voice, yada, yada. You know what I mean? It's actually witnessing them when they're silent, potentially, if they're undefined, so that they encourages them that they're still seen when they're not actually making noise, or get them into acting, get them into singing classes so they can actually use that energy up in an effective way that isn't burning a hole in our ear. My other daughter, who has 8 defined centers and a defined throat, talks when she has something she wants to say rather than for fun. That's awesome. And yes, acting is her jam. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, the G center. So the G center is all around love, direction, purpose. This is what we call a monopole, and that probably doesn't mean anything to anyone who's just starting out. But what a monopole is it's a one-way magnet. Think of it that way, which means all it's ever designed to do is bring whatever it is that's meant for you to you. That's what this center is going to do. So if you're ever worried that, you're going to miss the opportunity or you're not on the right path, if you're following your strategy and your authority, right, which is connecting into everything that we're here to give and receive in the world, you will be fine. You're not going to miss the boat, okay? But how you interact with this energy is different depending on if it's colored or white. So if you're defined, it's a 50-50 split pretty much. So you're here to celebrate the magnificence of who you are. You have this inner pulling and knowing, if you're defined, of I'm just here for a reason, right? And you feel pretty certain your life is probably on a bit of train tracks. You have your ups and your downs, but you find your way back onto the track, right? You can confidently express kind of who you are and what you're here to do. Well, you have the gifts to do that. That's the most important thing. When you're undefined, my experience with this is that these people, when I speak to them all the time, it's why does everyone look like they have their shit together and I don't, right? Why am I over here and then I'm over here, right? And then everyone else seems to have their life, heading in the right direction, and I feel like I'm going around in circles. It's because your path is always going to be evolving. Because why? Depending on who you're hanging around is the energy you're going to pick up. So your circle of 5 is really, really important. I see this with my son all the time. He has an undefined G center and he gets really distracted in class, depending on who he's sitting with at the time. When he's by himself, or if he's around us as family with our values and what we're doing, he's amazing. But then when he's around other people, he can shift his personality to match them. And so that for me as a parent, I just really mindful of the conversations I have about bringing him back to who he is and helping him to make conscious decisions around when he feels like he's being pulled into behavior that isn't in alignment. Right. And so the good thing about this is if you don't feel happy, healthy, prosperous, successful, all you have to do is move. All you have to do is change the people you're hanging around and your whole life will change. That's the gift within the G center. The other good gift about the undefined G center is you can sense and feel other people's purposes. Right. You're not here for you. You can sense the other. And so you're a really good coach. You can be a really good coach and guide and mentor. Is this resonating for anyone who has this? Yeah, I'm getting nods from Melinda. All right, let's go down into the G center. So let me know in the comments if this is defined or undefined for you. This is a biggie. This is fully open for me. This is all white. And so this is connected to the willpower, self-esteem, and even finishing things. There's a lot of energy in this center. If you have this activated, you're like, there's probably people maybe watching this from other countries, but in Australia, we have a term called the tall poppy syndrome. And basically that means if someone gets too successful, they're too good, everyone will go, nope, sorry, and cut you down. And what I find is the people who have defined centers, if they're not owning the fact that they just naturally are good at stuff, like they just find things effortless, like there's certain things in their life that they will find effortless. And if you're not like proud of that, if you've toned that light down, if you've toned those gifts down because of you thought that you might shine too bright, nope. This is what you're here to do. All right. So the few things that you can remember is that when you commit to something, you're going to see it through. So just make sure that you're always committing to something that is a big yes from your authority. Because if you wake up the next morning and you're like, oh my God, why did I say yes to that? And you've got this center like activated, you're going to feel awful as you complete it, but you're going to complete it, right? Because your word is your bond. Like it means something to you. The only thing I will say is just be gentle with the expectations of others. So someone like myself who's like fully open, I will like consistency is a really hard thing. If I stick to like, it's really hard to stay consistent in my life. It just is. And so you may see me as someone being flaky, or she said she was going to do it and then she didn't, or she did it late and she said like, it's just sometimes we have inconsistent access to that willpower to get things done. Okay. But the main thing is to remember is you can either send all this energy out into the world with heart or with ego. And it just depends. If you're getting in arguments with people, check this center because you may be sending out your ego. And if you're like literally attracting the most beautiful people in your life, all you're sending out right now is you're going through that heart energy, which is really magnetic. Okay. Now, the gift around undefined centers is that you've come here to remember that you are valuable simply because you exist. You actually don't have to prove anything. You don't have to go do anything. You don't have to like do the things. You have to be you. And so I've actually got this little keychain on my purse, which isn't in front of me, that says, I am enough. And I think this is a reminder for anyone with this center that is open, is that it doesn't matter how hard you try, what you win, you know, how much you earn, like that is not going to fill that cup, that void that is empty, right? That you're trying to fill by achieving something. It's when you actually remember that it's because you're here living and breathing right now. That is why you are worthy of whatever it is that you desire. Okay, and how you're here to express it into the world. So the other thing is just like don't make split decision promises to people, because you do need a lot of energy to complete them. So just do that according to your strategy and your authority. What do we got here going on in the chats? Undefined heart center. I have an undefined with no gates colored, all that for the will center. Yeah, so you're the same as me, Victoria. And so have you always felt like but not enoughness? It's like you're just always looking for the pats on the head constantly. And you're like, but why do I need it? Like we've just got this yearning for it. And it's because we have no access to hold that energy in our system, and we're not designed to. We really have to just realize that we find that within rather than external. How do you know if a center is conditioned? Victoria, this is a really good question. It's probably you're just acting out of alignment. So you'll know, for instance, I guess this is probably why I go into the I Am course, babe. If you haven't done the I Am course, come do that. We really cover all of this stuff. We cover the deconditioning, we cover all the things. But you'll definitely know when you're not in alignment, when you understand more about these centers. This is very, very top line, okay? But just for the sake of time, if I have time at the end, I'll come back and answer that question. But I just want to keep going with the centers for now, if that's okay. Yeah, Melissa's got here, seeking recognition. Yeah, which took me into burnout. Burnout was my first time conditioning was made. Thank you, Melissa. Okay, so motor center, so the solar plexus, this is all around the emotions. If this is defined, this is you're highly emotionally intelligent is your superpower. But again, you're not here to make those quick decisions. So like, can I get back to you tomorrow is probably a really good thing. You're going to have like one of these big lines colored in, right? Or maybe multiple of these lines coming out of the center colored in, connecting you to one of these other centers. That's what turns this on. And that's what makes this a defined center. Depending on which line is colored for you is what your emotional wave is going to be like. Because if you feel like your emotions are controlling your life and you're up and then you're down, what we can teach you is how that is best soothed, how you're best to show up with that emotional wave, and the resources and tools you need in your life to be able to calm that emotional wave so it's not so controlling, or more so you can just embrace it and not judge yourself for it, okay? Because it's just a part of who you are. Now, when you're undefined, empathy is your superpower. But the problem with empathy is that often we are predicting how other people are going to feel. So, and we amplify that within ourselves. It feels really, really yucky, right? And so we don't set a boundary. We don't have that tough conversation. We aren't as clear as we want to be when we're talking to someone. And maybe we're even potentially saying yes to all of these things because we don't want to say no because we're thinking that's going to hurt their feelings, like all of the things, right? And so the best gift I can give you is clear is kind and unclear is unclined. You know, all we want to do is be kind when the center is sensitive and white, right? And if we're not, then we're not honoring the other person, right? And so just really come back to that. Now, when we go into the sacral center, this is the source of creation. Now, 70% of this population is defined, and this is what makes you either a generator or a manifesting generator. This is your little battery pack, right? That we have consistent access to life force creation, right? But again, just because we can doesn't mean we should. So being productive. So if you're defining the center, use your energy to be productive, not just be busy. And you will know at the end of the day if you have been productive or you've been busy. If you've been productive, you fall asleep like a treat, right? You go to bed on good time, you have a smile on your face, you've used your energy for what it was designed to be used, like as in strategy, authority, purpose, direction, all those things. If you're a generator, or a manifesting generator, if this center is on for you and you've been busy all day, right? And you've been working really hard, doing all the things, and then you go to bed and you're wired and tired and you're beating yourself up on all the things still that you didn't do. Like, you're way out of alignment, babe. Okay? You're way out of alignment. You're doing things with your energy that aren't really supposed to be the things for you to be doing. And you really need to come back and tap back into and learn how to use your strategy and authority to determine what it is that you're supposed to do. Or this could even be like a sign that you're in the wrong job, potentially too. But that energy is designed to be used up throughout the day, all of it, gone, poof, go to bed, really, really happy, right? Now, when it's undefined, this means you're a projector, a manifestor, or a reflector. And so this means you're like resting is really important for you guys. Why? Because you have inconsistent access to energy. Does that mean that you don't have the energy to do things, create things? Absolutely not. You just do it in a slightly different way. You don't do it necessarily through building the things, through muscle work, right? It's probably more through like guiding situations or initiating things for people. It's a different form of creation. And so you get to do it in your own unique way. And you may have stopped yourself from doing this because it's not the common thing, right? But resting is active for you. It's not passive. It's essential. You need to prioritize it. You need to prioritize your sleep as well, and having like a decent amount of wind down time to let any excess energy in your body that is not yours to hold out before you go to bed, okay? And just remember that you're here to contribute to society in your own unique way. Victoria's getting her mind blown. What was that one for? Okay. The splenic center. We've got 2 more to cover. This is an awareness center, right? Remember I said the deer in the headlight, a deer in the woods, fear, intuition, like timing, like you just got to go now, right? So if this center is defined, you can, this is because this is a fear center, you feel fear. You constantly are feeling fear, but you can take action anyway. You can do it anyway. You have a way to regulate that fear, right? But when you've also got consistent access to your intuition as well. But remember, intuition and inspiration is very different. Inspiration comes from our head. Inspiration is like, whoa, that's a great idea. I want to go. We can feel pressure to take action on inspiration, like from the head. When we get intuition, that's a different ballgame. That's scary. That's like, oh, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. But they won't like, no, people will laugh at me if like, no. Oh my God, if my mom saw me do that, like I haven't spoken to that person in forever. I can't call that, but whatever it is that's dropped in out of somewhere, nowhere, like out of the blue, that potentially is your intuition. And if it's followed by fear, then you definitely know it's your intuition, and you got to write that stuff down because it will only speak once and then it will disappear. And I bet you have moments in your life when you're most intuitive and you'll get all these great inspirations and it's like, oh, I'll definitely remember that. And then you don't because it disappears. So just write it down. Write it down. It's guiding you in a direction. Whether this is your authority, your splenic authority or not, if you've got this center defined or even undefined, your intuition is guiding you. And so you've got to trust it by overcoming that fear. If it is undefined, 45% of the population, there's probably, hands down, I could probably say that there's somewhere in your life that you have an irrational fear of something. It may not be all areas of life, but it's probably somewhere. It could be flying, it could be bungee jumping, it could be like, I don't know, it could, like, I even had a lady said that she was scared about crossing the road. And so she used to hold her children's hands, even when they were adults, not for them, for herself to cross the road. Right? There's something that there's this unrational fear. And that's okay. We have to love and understand where that's coming from. There's a lot of conditioning from childhood in the splenic center. And that's a whole another conversation for another time. But just understand that if you are holding on to things for too long, as in mindsets, narcissistic relationships, potentially even, you kind of can get into things because you fear letting them go. You don't want to let them go, or this thing go, or this mindset go, or this possession go, because you don't know what life is going to feel like if it's not there. And so that can be really scary for you. And so reminding yourself that you're safe all the time is really, really important. Okay. And that like, I am safe. And like, you can be bold. You can be courageous when the time is right. Okay. And so you can trust yourself that bungee jumping and jumping off the roof is not the same thing. They're not going to both kill you. Bungee jumping, like technically speaking, isn't going to kill you. Jumping off the roof probably will. But they may feel like the exact same level of fear for someone with an undefined root center. It also may look like helicopter parenting too, a little bit with the undefined spleen center. Victoria saying, oh my God, I literally just told my husband that. There you go. So Victoria saying, mine is undefined, but I resonate with the defined more from intuition listening. So this is, so, you know, you have intuition anyway, Victoria, and because you're open, so the gift with the undefined splenic center is that you're tapped to all the inspiration. So you can be like highly psychic, right? Potentially even. And this is connected to our immune system. So you can actually feel and sense other people's illnesses, things. And so a lot of healers are fully open in this center. A lot of people who are open in this center are very sensitive to plant medicine. So they've probably been using herbs and things since they were a kid, because they're just naturally drawn to the gentle way of supporting their health, more so than the medicine and the hard stuff to support their health, because their system literally can't take it. It's too sensitive, right? And so there's lots more to learn about the splenic center and the nuances. Yes, more herbal remedies over medical. Yes. Yeah. So tick, tick, tick. Final root center. More mine. I'm loving the emoticon things. Okay, so I love talking about the root center. I have mine defined. And so this was a really big awakening for me to understand that people who don't have this center defined like me, because it's connected to adrenaline and momentum. right? And so I have this pressure to, like, I leave things to the last minute, and so I can get all this pressure and I can build it up and I can use it, right, to create things in the world. And I can do that when the energy is on, and I can move a lot of energy when my energy is on, and I can get a lot of stuff done when the energy is on. But sometimes it's not. And sometimes I could be like, why can't I write this post? Why can't I? And it's just like, whew, the energy is just not there to do this right now. And I have to like let it go, because when it does switches on, whew, it's great. The only thing I will say is that because the center is connected to adrenals, I've never experienced burnout. Like I've done some crazy hours. Like I was up until very, very, very early this morning, and then I had a very little amount of sleep, and I still feel good because I was in alignment. I was using my energy for things that light me up as a generator, right? And so I can handle that, and my adrenals can handle that because I have a defined root center. If I had an undefined root center, yes, I could still leave things to the last minute to try and access some extra energy, but my adrenals are going to suffer. And so if you do that consistently, you're probably going to experience burnout, where, for instance, I probably wouldn't necessarily get to that point unless I truly lived way outside of my, realm of alignment, and I was just doing all the wrong things. Of course, I could still burn out, but not at the same point as the undefined centers. So with the undefined center, let me know if you're joining me live, do you have an undefined center? Yes or no? And if so, do you often feel like you just don't have enough time? Like you're always rushing, right? And what I will say to that is, if you're rushing, what you're trying to run away from is you're trying to run away from the pressure. But you never can run away from the pressure because you've got access to it. You're always going to be tapping into other people's pressure. So all of that rushing is kind of not healthy for us. And so the good mantra for you is time is always on my side. I have plenty of time to get this done. Okay. And just calming the farm. And so utilizing grounding essential oils, like I cover all of this stuff in the health section of I am course, but like grounding with like root centered oil, like root oils, like helping calming that, even using basil and things for your adrenals can be very, very supportive. Removing stimulants to get you going, caffeine, alcohol to get you going, that's going to be spiking your cortisol as well, right? So just set really realistic goals and make decisions using your strategy and your authority to help make sure you've got a really healthy relationship with how you create momentum in your life and how you utilize the adrenaline in your body. Lisa's saying that she loves balance. Balance is a beautiful blend by doTERRA, which is perfect for grounding and this, yes. Victoria's saying, yes, rushing always. I procrastinate and use burst in the end. It drives me nuts. And this is the thing. And you can do that because this is what adrenaline is for. We all have adrenaline. We all have cortisol in our body, right? It's just the fact that you using it like that in the undefined center will lead to burnout. And me utilizing that with a defined center probably wouldn't. It's just not very healthy still. It's not a great way, right? Anyway, there's so much more I could say on that, but I'll keep going. So uncover your unique gifts. There is another side to human design chart, which is actually astrology. And so I just want to explain what you're looking at for those who don't necessarily know all the details of all the gates and all the things, but I just wanted to highlight what these were. So if you are fascinated with astrology, or you want to look further into this, or you want to come do some of my bigger courses, I'm actually going to be launching I Am Woman in the next week or so. This is going to be for people who already have an understanding of human design. So if they've already done the I Am course, or they've already studied somewhere else, they can actually bring the human design wisdom from their head into their body, right? And so we're actually going to dive into the nuances of the chart in I Am Woman and remember the real person we've come here to be. So some people are actually doing the I Am course and then coming into I Am Woman if they haven't already got that foundation for this kind of stuff. But just so you know, like the sun is here, is how you express yourself. The sun sign at the top. The earth is here, what grounds you and balances you. And when I do business courses in human design, this is actually where your ideal client lives, the traits of your customer. lives in this earth sign. Your north node is where you are heading. It's like your direction that we need to face and move towards. And your south node is where you've been. And so there can be conditioning in here too. When I do coaching with people, sometimes they're turning around and facing where they've been because that feels safer and more familiar. And they actually have to turn around and start facing their north node and start moving towards that. Because the south node is going to come with them. They're not going to lose any of that, right? But that's not where growth is for them. Now, the moon is all internal things. It's all the emotional stuff. But when we think of internal, it's our internal motivation of what drives us. So there's a lot of power when we understand the energy behind our moon. Mercury is here. This is our communication. So anyone who knows me, I love working with the energy of the planets. And so Wednesdays in particular are Mercury days. They're ruled by Mercury. So Wednesdays are great days to communicate, to have courses, to have mentoring calls, do all those things on Mercury. But for me, when I'm coaching through business in particular, I look at someone's Mercury gate to determine how they're here to communicate. So my communication style is in my gate 27, which is my mum gate. Right? I'm here to nurture and support you teaching. I'll teach you what you need to do. I'll show you how to tie your shoelaces, but I'm not going to continue to do it for you for the rest of your life, right? I'm going to empower you so you can do it yourself. And that's how I communicate. And that makes so much sense. So your Venus is down here. This is your values. So we know Venus as love and things, but really it's what we stand for. It's like love languages too. It all can almost be our values, how we want to give and receive in this world lives in our values. Mars, there's some big lessons can be in Mars. It's where growth is needed. Often when we're looking at children in particular, we can look at their Mars. They're probably going to have a lot of lessons through this gate in their chart. And when we go into the unconscious side, it's a whole nother conversation. Jupiter is all about expansion, right? So Jupiter actually rules our Thursday. I love working on a Thursday. When I'm launching a course or when I'm doing something like that, I do it on a Thursday because everything expands with Jupiter. So this is our blessing. So this is a great one to look into. What is, where is your energy in your Jupiter? And this is obviously a deeper level of this is what is possible for you in your human design. You can actually look into that gate. So I'm in 38. This is the gate of the fighter, right? So for me, when I'm rebelliously passionate about something, anything, when my enthusiasm is maxed out, that's when things expand for me, right? That's what I need to tap into. Now, Saturn is, if you are under 30, you're still going through your first Saturn return. If you're over 30, you've gone through your Saturn return. Saturn return is like the principal. It's like the dad in our life. It's like we've been playing with the substitute teacher for and mucking around, and then Saturn comes in and goes, "Oi, get your shit together," right? That's the energy of Saturn. So there's a lot of lessons often in Saturn that keep revisiting in our life, and that's why. Now, Saturn doesn't always have to be mean and doesn't always have to turn our life upside down. It just depends how much we've been living in alignment. If we were mucking around and causing chaos with the substitute teacher and then the principal comes in, that's a 180, right? To start behaving ourselves and getting back on track, right, with where we're supposed to be going. But if we're doing the right thing with the substitute teacher and still doing our work and, having a bit of fun, but, still pretty good, then when the principal comes in, you're like, okay, I'm just going to get serious now, right? So it doesn't always have to be this big thing. Now, Uranus, quirkiness. What makes you different? So when I'm working with someone with business and stuff, with branding, or even if you just want to trust who you are and the unique properties of who you are, go and have a look at your Uranus gate. That's really going to determine what it is that makes you unique. Your Neptune is your spiritual purpose. Now, these are way distant planets, right? So these are very slow moving. So this is your spiritual purpose. This is a big North Star for you. And Pluto, there's a lot of lessons, a lot of generational change and transformation happens through the Pluto expansion as well. So that's where how astrology gets filtered in. I just want to drop that in here because often people ask, but what do all these things mean? And now you know. And of course you can go and if you're like me and love to self-learn, you can do that. If you want to fast track that in some way, come and do some of my courses, right? So you can learn a little bit more on how to utilize this. Well, this is just some examples of me and how I kind of bring it into the realm of real life. So my sun is in the gate of growth. And that's basically, I know how people need to set a foundation so that they can get to the next level in their life. It doesn't matter if it's in their health or if they're in relationships or if it's in their career. I know, like, where are you? What are the next 3 steps? Let's get you there, right? Let's get you growing. It's like an elevator. Let's get you up, right? My North Node is in the gate of skills. It's like, just do it. A lot of things that I will just teach you is like that Nike. It's my Nike tick. It's like, let's just do the thing. Like, let's just do the thing. You've got the skills. You already know there's so much knowledge and wisdom. Let's pull it out of you and let's just do it. My Mercury, I told you, is my mum gate. That caring nature is how I communicate. I really want the best for people, but sometimes there's going to be a little bit of tough love, just sometimes. And then the Jupiter is that expansion. That's the gate of the fighter, I said. But it's like the superhero or the activist. It's the person who's willing to go where other people aren't going, to say the things that maybe other people aren't saying, because it's something that they're really passionate about. And even it doesn't always have to be, you know, left wing, right wing stuff. It can just be like, people need to know about this. They need to know about themselves. They need to know about human design. They need to know how special they are. And I'm willing to be that person to do that. So if you are interested in coming and joining, or if you know someone in your life that would benefit from understanding this information, come and get them to join the I Am course. This course costs less than a 1-hour consult with me. Like, I cannot explain to you the immense value that is covered in these 3 modules over 3 weeks. Okay, so we're going to cover the self, your health, and your family, and like relationships, parenting. So who are you? How you feel in alignment? If you're feeling misunderstood, felt imposter syndrome, feeling lost, or going around in circles, or stuck, or self-worth, all of those things, as you can see, as we go through your chart, you start to like have these like mind-blowing mic drop moments of course, right, I get it now. And then you can actually take action and move forward. When we cover them, then the next module is, like I covered then, like all those centers, we then talk about the health. So are you overthinking? Are you out of alignment? Are you struggling with sleep? Are you lacking energy? Do you have ongoing health concerns? Do you struggle with stress or burnout or your emotions? We actually be able to pinpoint all of these things in our chart and have tools to be able to move through them. And I definitely utilize essential oils in this health module, as well as other things like mindset and other tools that I've picked up over the 10, 20 years that I've worked in this industry. And then the final module is family. And so I had to include this. The reason why I had to bring these 3 in is because these were when I were getting the most questions. And so rather than me spending my time to help people individually, I can help masses of people at the same time, because at the end of the day, we all learn from one another being in this space, and the energy of this container is just beautiful. So we can look at family dynamics. We can help understand people that we've struggled with. We can have meaningful relationships with people when we have compassion for how they're experiencing the world versus how I'm experiencing the world. We can help our children to thrive in their design, right? Like what Victoria was saying, I wish I knew when I was 20. I wish your mama knew this when you were 2, right? And so I'm trying to get ahead of the train here, and by helping the parents, help the kids. So it's the next generation that's going to benefit from this, and not just us. It's going to help with their behavior, with sleep, with conditioning, right? And of course, that generational change. It really is for the kids. And Melissa, if you want, do you have any words to put onto this? Because I know this is an area that you're super passionate about. I just put you on the spot again.
Hi. Yeah, it's been like really amazing to understand my 2 daughters and kind of reduce some frictions, especially because like my one daughter, she's mostly defined. She has like 8 of the 9 centers defined, and she's a manifesting generator, and she picks things up quickly and puts them down. And so, you know, she doesn't like to do her workbook that she has, that she loves, but she doesn't like to, you know, complete a section fully. And so I know that she's going to come back to it. I don't need to nag her about it. And sure enough, like she does, she comes back to it in her own time. And it's quite interesting because she takes the time to really kind of go off or rest or do other things. And she does that. She picks things up, she puts them down. And I know like that's her style. And one perfect example of that was I signed her up for French lessons, and it was 2 days in a row every week. And she said, oh, we did it on Wednesday. I don't want to do it on Thursday. And I said, okay, is it because you don't like French? Like, I was just curious. She's like, no, I just, like I did it yesterday. So I don't really feel like doing it today, but I do love it. And I'm like, this is manifesting generator. But I honored her, right? And I explained it to her teacher. Like, her teacher was probably like, what is this? Because I was like, my daughter's a manifesting generator. But anyways, it's fine. The more people learn, the better. So that was it, really. It's beautiful because it's allowed a lot of understanding of my children, which I think in a world where books, right, try to pigeonhole or homogenize children and into certain, frameworks. I love that human design has allowed me to understand each of my children's uniqueness. So thanks.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful that too. Like, I think you've just nailed it. I think it is. It's like witnessing and it's like, oh, that's actually not wrong. That's just right for them. It's just different for me. And so Tara, is that how you say your name, darling? You're asking if this is still beneficial if you don't have kids. Absolutely. Because guess what? We were all kids once. Right. And so many people have come through this course who don't have children. And they have done so much healing with how they were parented and the inner child. Right. And at the end of the day, all I'm actually describing in the third module around parenting is relationships. That's really what I'm designed to do. And I think there's always part of us, the inner child within us who's still running our life. And so when you can actually utilize the module 3 and do this for like, okay, if I'm the parent of myself now, and I can come back and give my inner child what she needed when I was younger, and I can do some reparenting, everything can change because we can give that to ourselves. We can actually go back in time to those moments when something happened to us, which changed a mindset or a belief pattern within us, which is no longer serving our life now, right? And I can do this through timeline therapy with one-on-one coaching, all that kind of stuff. But I can show you how to do that in here too, right? So yeah, I think it's 100%. Does that help? Thank you. Yes, understood. Robin, please send the link to this course. I'd love it. Yeah, okay. Actually, I don't know, Melissa, do you have a link there? Well, I've just got a couple more things that I'm going to show what people are going to learn. So in module 1, like what is pretty much similar to what you learned like now, but obviously a lot more in depth. So what is human design, the chart anatomy, the types, the strategies, the profile line. So all the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6s, all the numbers, your authorities and the centers. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Like and you can have your chart up, you can have your friend's chart up, you can have your kids' chart up, you can have your partner's chart up, you can have everyone's charts in front of you. So as you're learning, you're like, wow, that's so them. Wow, that's so me. Okay. And that's going to really help you integrate this wisdom much faster than just getting like a reading of your chart. Like, what does that mean in relation to the rest of the world around you? This is actually going to give you the tools so you can actually like live your life with the people that you love in the best, healthiest way. Module 2, we're going to talk about something called human design transits, your health with the types, your health with the centers, deconditioning practices, essential oil recommendations, and other tools. And then module 3, we're going to be talking about natural traits, natural environments that we thrive in, education and learning support. So even like as us, we will learn so much about us as well in this module for how we need to learn best, how we're best to show up, how we're best to structure our day. Will be learned in this module too. Parenting by type, yes. As a parent, I think that there are definitely skills that we can learn how to parent the child and their type, but also advice for us for how we show up with other people, as someone who guides. And then nurturing centers, like how do we actually nurture centers? How can we either self-parent or parent through centers? Thank you, Melissa. All right. And so with the I am difference, a little bit different with the I am course too, is how we actually learn. So there is going to be a live component and also a learning on demand component. So the learning on demand is something different this round versus the 4 other rounds I've done. The reason why I'm doing it this way is because people kept saying, I just wanted to put you on pause and write more notes, right? And when I'm teaching live, you can't do that. And sometimes also it's really hard to get 90 minutes or a 2-hour block to jump in and learn something like this. So what I've actually done is I've actually broken down the videos into short little videos. So you can go in and either bulk learn if you need to and have the time, or you can watch the shorter videos and you've got a whole week to learn that week content. And then on a Thursday evening, and there's also so I've got 2 time zones. I've got it's always Thursday night if you're in Australia. And then it's also Friday morning for me, which will be Thursday night in like America, Canada. Okay, so you can pick the time zone that suits you best. And that's where you can get your questions answered. And I think that's important because like we had the chat just then, right? And you were able to get those questions answered. If you've got a static course, you can't do that, but it's so important that you get to seek out clarification when you need it. So learn the module content, then come to the live group call. Yeah. Learn the week's module, then come to the live group. And that means you can have that whole time to digest and assimilate and learn, and then bring it into the live call and then ask the questions that you need answers to. And then you have this for lifetime access too. So once you have access to the static course, like in its portal, you'll have access this for the full time of the duration of the I Am Academy. Okay. And that means because people will go back and revisit it, or they'll want to re-watch something again. Because when you do that, I've had actually people do the I Am course multiple times, because every time they come into this course, they learn something new, right? Because they've already integrated that part of them, and now they can absorb a different part of themselves. And so this is why this is a journey. And so this is why I've also created an ongoing community support through the I Am alumni group. So anyone who does my courses gets to join the alumni, which means there's always going to be a community that you can access who's like-minded. They're learning human design in a similar way, which is really practical, right? Similar mindset people that you can come in a safe environment and have your questions answered all the time. So for those who want to join in, it is $197. There is a payment plan of 2 payments of $111 over 2 months. If that suits you better, just let me know. There's actually a link for that as well. But it's like $150 US. Like this is almost half the price of my one-on-one coaching calls. So this is the easiest way that I can get this wisdom into as many people's hands as possible. And so that's why I just want to keep sharing like the immense value here, because often can be quite expensive to learn human design, let alone at this level in this amount of detail. So I'm really excited that I can do this for you. And I hope that you can take up the offer, and I hope that you can share it with people that you feel like need to do this with you. I've actually had mum and daughters do the course together. I've had best friends do the course together, right? And if your husband's open to it, get him learning it as well, because it will be a great game changer for your relationship too. But the one piece of advice I will say as we finish up this is that you are always, always, always going to be learning. Okay, so it's okay not to have all the answers right now. Your brain could be exploding. As I said, I'm really good at like learning and regurgitating and simplifying information in a condensed amount of time. But at the same time, we have to understand that some people need to take a slower pace. And that's why I've changed this learning style for this course now, is so that you can go back and revisit it bit by bit. And so it actually starts to, integrate, and your design will awaken within you. So just be kind as you're on this journey. And this is new to you. Welcome. I hope you had like at least some kind of insight or download as to what's possible here for you. And let's just take the next step. Let's start practicing this, like understanding what your type is. We'll break all of those down in great detail in the course. Understanding what your strategy is and your authority is. You'll learn what that means and how to show up in that space, right? And then practice. Go out into the world and see what will actually happen. All right. So just remember, you are enough, or I am enough. I am worthy. I am safe. I am heard. I am important. I am capable. I am loved. I am unique. And I am ready to take action, take aligned action to live your best life. And thank you so much for the time that you took to be here today, even with the few little IT issues and all the things. That was a solid 90 minutes, guys. You hung in there. I was hoping to get that done in 60, but that's okay. That's okay. If anyone wants to unmute and put their voice to what they just experienced, that would be amazing.
Awesome info, Hayley. Awesome. I'd love to get into human design a bit more. I've actually got the textbook.
Yeah.
but I haven't had time to delve into it yet.
And sometimes we need that container, don't we? We just need a container that we can join to actually prioritize some time to learn something that we actually really want to learn. And so that's also what this container is for too. So yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, cool. So definitely look at doing the course. Looks really good.
Lisa,
I love it. Sorry, Hayley. I love the insight, even though I'm probably the oldest person in this group. It was fascinating to me.
Yeah,
I really do. I really enjoyed it. So a lot of thought going into today.
It's never too late. Like I've actually had someone in their 60s literally become a human design reader.
A pie.
You look very young. Are you using frankincense or something like that?
Lots of it. Thank you, Hayley. I did appreciate it. I'm going to look at doing the course. I think it will be good for the team.
Yeah, it'll be beautiful. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you, Hayley.
Thank you, Diana. I can't unmute right now, but I am completely enthralled and excited to learn more. If the course is as informative as 90 minutes was, it will be worth it. Yes, it is. Yeah, this is the teaser. This is the intro. So yeah, there's a lot of wisdom stored in this ajna of mine that is just ready to come out into the world, and love sharing this wisdom and knowledge with you guys. Who said this about teens? Lisa saying, that was amazing. I would love for the teenagers that I work with know more about this. Lisa, how do you work with teenagers, darling?
I am an Air Training Corps Cadet Force officer. So we work with teenagers once a week, every weekend. And we probably have them for a good 3 years as they develop from sort of 12, 13-year-olds through to the 18. So I think that'd be really valuable.
Amazing. It would be, and this is the beautiful thing about passing this wisdom on. And so whether you may learn enough in the IM course to be able to do that, or you might want to come and do the academy with me, so you feel really confident to be able to read for people and to guide them, because it's not just a reading course. I also teach you how to coach too. But honestly, if we can get this into children's hands and to breathe belief into them, when there's so much distraction and so much social media pressure and things, if they can have anything that reminds them how amazing they are and to trust themselves as a teenager, game changer. Thank you for doing that work. Honestly, thank you.
Hayley, just one more question.
Yes, darling.
Prisoners. I've voluntarily visited prisoners for 9.5 years.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, would you in your course teach how I would adapt it on a simplistic level that I could then gauge what these people were thinking when I'm visiting?
So
that's very interesting.
Yeah. So would you have any of their personal details to be able to pull up their chart, or would you just try to be doing this instinctively?
It would have to be, I do get to see what's happening and what they're there and all that and their ages and that, but I'm not allowed to use it outside, of course, in any way, shape or form. So it would just have to be instinctively, I think, more so.
Okay. So I think one thing is going to give you an understanding of just how different people show up in the world. Right. So when you see this, it's well, maybe they're actually this. I mean, the number of times Melissa and I have had conversations, I bet you she's got this. And then we'll go look up the chart, sure enough, they do. Right. And so with practice comes this awareness of the way that things get expressed. So, and then you can just ask them questions. Have you ever thought, have you ever felt like this? And if they're oh my God, yes, then you know that it's connected probably to that undefined center. Because what I do in the IM course is I teach mantras or questions to ask for each defined or undefined center, right? And so if you just remember those types of questions, you can basically guide through, is this defined or undefined for them? Does that make sense? And then you can just kind of breathe a little bit belief or remind them of how to come back or how to trust themselves.
I'm trying to integrate the Gallup polls, their leadership
strengths,
traits and that,
and
their trends and that, but it's a bit difficult with the government sometimes.
Yeah. So if you knew their date of birth, maybe not time of birth, but if you knew their date of birth, you could pull up the chart.
Yeah. Okay.
right? You would have to play with the day, like, and just do a best guess, right? And have maybe 2 options of where they actually sit. But 100%, as long as you knew the day, like their day of birth, like day, month, year, and where, you'd have to know where. So if they were born in England, it would be different if they were born in Australia, because that's time zone stuff. But even if you didn't know, like, you could still get a rough idea for somewhere to start. And I think there's just so much permission in this to go, you don't actually have to be that way. Or like, if they were very sensitive or very open, they could have just been misunderstood their whole life and tried to overcompensate or got taken down the wrong path, right? And it's just honoring that and understanding that and seeing them in that. I think it would be an amazing opportunity if you could access that information. Or if not, I mean, I always have so either my life runs through 2 filters now. When I'm watching something on television, if they're sad, I'm like, or if they've hurt themselves or they're bleeding, I'm like, I got to get the helichrysum out and like put it on them, right? Like, that's the first filter of life. And then it's like, oh, this person is a projector and they are not waiting for an invitation and they're just giving unsolicited advice and it's not working. So these are my 2 filters I see life. Okay. And so you'll get to that point too, I think, the more that you learn. And you'll learn more in the course. And then if you want to continue that, as you integrate it in your life, you'll integrate it in the world around you too. It's just the process. Does that help? Okay, cool. All right. Sounds amazing. Thank you, Safe. Oh, Safe was here too. I didn't see you. Safe is in Thailand. I just lit my neighbor up with his human design for his son. Melissa is saying, did you mean you just hit? No, you just lit. What did you do? I then read his chart. He's the Genius to Freak channel, and always felt like he's from another world and can't do small talk. He felt so validated with this gift. So what Melissa's talking about is there's certain parts of our chart, like channels and things, that we start to learn about as we go on this journey. And whenever I'm teaching someone how to like read a chart, as in when we do the academy, the first thing I just always say is trust your instincts. What's the first thing what jumps out at you or someone's chart? Like, what's the first thing that you see? You might not know why that's interesting to you, but talk to that, right? And that's probably what Melissa did. She saw this Freak to Genius channel. She just had to tell him, like, do you realize that how you see the world is so unique and it's probably always going to be misunderstood? And he's like, oh my God, yes. How do you know that? Right? It's so cool to be able to do that for people. Lisa's saying, sounds amazing, Hayley. I learned it myself, and then let's talk. I think this could be massive game changer for them. Yeah, like, I'm happy to have a chat with you too, Lisa, if I can help in any way, or if there's like a group call that I could do with your like people in your business to explain it more. Happy to chat. Thank you so much, Hayley, for your time and insight. I have straight off to bed. Oh no, I have to sign off and get to bed. So I don't know what country you were in, Victoria, but thank you for joining me, darling. Great filters to see in. Yes, have to leave. Thanks, Diana. Awesome, everyone. Tara has the Genius to Freak channel too. All right. I have got this recording done. I will pop it up. I'll send everyone a link who signed up for the live. But just thank you so much to everyone who joined me. Robin, Andrea, I hope you enjoyed it too. And if you have any questions, please continue to ask. I'll also, when I send the email out to everyone, I'll pop a link into the I Am course. If you would love to do the I Am Woman, and also potentially you're open to becoming a trainer and reading, I actually have a special package for people who are wanting to do all 3, because it's actually over the next 4 months. So if that's something that you're open to, just let me know, and then we can work out a special price for that too. Okay. Big love to you all. Okay. Bye.